Shakespeare left mysteries in his characters that scholars still can't solve. Was Hamlet mad? Where are Lady Macbeth's children? Why does Iago destroy? These weren't mistakes. Shakespeare refused easy answers about human nature. Every generation finds new meanings. That's why his characters remain alive.
Welcome to Shakespeare's Satchel. If you enjoy these journeys into the Bard's world, please like and subscribe. Where are you listening from tonight? It's a crisp morning in 1568, and you're waking in William Shakespeare's childhood home on Henley Street in Stratford-upon-Avon. The thick, straw-thatched roof muffles the world outside, but you can still feel the chill seeping through the daub and wattle walls, a mix of mud, straw, and animal dung that fills the timber frame. Your rough wool blanket, smelling faintly of wood smoke and sheep, offers meager comfort against the January air. A plume of wood smoke, pungent and earthy, curls from the central hearth downstairs, a smell you've known your entire life in this bustling market town. You hear the distant rumble of a wooden cart on the unpaved street, and the excited cackle of a neighbor's goose. Through a small, leaded window, the faint, grey light of dawn filters, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the cold air. You pull on your simple hose, fabric leggings tied to your breeches, before slipping into a jerkin, the fitted jacket commonly worn by working men and boys. The floorboards beneath your bare feet are cold and uneven, testament to centuries of footsteps. Descending the creaking stairs, you see the embers glowing in the hearth, the heart of the home, where warmth and light are coaxed from wood gathered from the nearby forest of Arden. As you step outside onto Henley Street, the air bites at your cheeks. The street itself is a winding ribbon of packed earth, rutted by cartwheels and animal hooves. There are no paved sidewalks here. You navigate around an open gutter, a shallow channel running down the center of the street, carrying waste towards the Avon River. It's a common sight in any Elizabethan town, a practical if unsanitary solution. This world, full of sights and smells and unspoken rhythms, is where a young William Shakespeare breathes. He observes the merchant haggling, the miller's boy delivering grain, the traveling peddler spinning tales for a rapt audience. Here, a story isn't just spoken, it's passed along, embellished, whispered, leaving room for a listener's own interpretation, for unanswered questions. Perhaps it was in this world, where truth itself often had many shades, but the seeds were sown for characters whose motives would puzzle us for centuries. Deliberate ambiguities designed to echo the very mysteries of life. The soft bleating of sheep begins to pierce the grey stillness of dawn in 1572. You are walking on a track just outside Stratford-upon-Avon, the air cool and damp with morning mist. The faint light reveals dew-laden fields stretching towards the horizon, where the first flock of the day is being driven to pasture. The rhythmic thud of hooves on damp earth, and the insistent barks of a shepherd's dog create a symphony of rural awakening. You wrap your coarse wool cloak tighter around you, feeling the chill penetrate the heavy fabric. The smell of wet earth, newly disturbed grass, and the distinctive aroma of the sheep themselves fills your nostrils. These are common lands, areas shared by the community for grazing livestock, a vital resource for the town's economy. The shepherd, a sturdy figure silhouetted against the lifting mist, moves with an ancient purpose, his crook, a familiar extension of his arm. He wears a simple tunic of homespun wool, much like your own, and tough leather boots, designed for trudging through mud and mire. The sheep, a mix of hardy breeds, push forward, their thick fleeces matted with dew. Wool is England's wealth, the very fibre of its prosperity, spun into thread, and woven into cloth in countless homes and workshops, even in Stratford. Young William Shakespeare, perhaps a few years older than yourself now, would have watched such scenes often. The quiet diligence of the shepherd, the docile nature of the flock, the occasional rebel that breaks away. This rhythm of rural life, seemingly simple, holds its own deep complexities. The changing seasons dictate survival. The land provides but also demands. You notice how the mist clings to the low-lying hedges, obscuring what lies just beyond, creating pockets of hiddenness even in an open field. It's a subtle deception, a veil over the mundane, hinting that things are not always as straightforward as they appear on the surface. This world, both of bustling market towns and quiet pastures, forms the backdrop of Shakespeare's mind. He observes not just the obvious but the nuances, the unspoken truths, the motivations that lie beneath the surface of everyday life. These subtle shifts in the landscape, these hidden pockets of mist, reflect the human heart he would later explore, crafting characters whose true intentions remain as elusive and compelling as a secret whispered on the wind. It's a bustling morning in 1598, and you find yourself in the heart of London's Cheapside. A symphony of church bells rings out, marking the hour for prayers and the full swing of trade. From St. Paul's Cathedral, its spires soaring above the crowded skyline, to smaller parish churches like St. Mary le Bow, the brassy chorus echoes over the timber-framed buildings that lean precariously over the narrow street. The air is thick with the inviting scent of baking bread from a nearby cookshop, mingling with the sweeter aroma of exotic spices spilling from a grocer's stall, and the unavoidable, underlying stench of refuse from the street's central gutter. You navigate the uneven cobblestones, feeling the cold damp through your sturdy leather boots. Apprentices, barely boys, are already sweeping shop fronts or lugging bolts of fine fabric onto display tables. You see a draper unrolling rich English wool, its texture rough beneath your fingers as you pass, next to a mercer showcasing shimmering silks imported from Italy and the Far East. This is the vibrant pulse of Elizabethan commerce, where fortunes are made and lost with the arrival of every ship at the docks. The merchants here, with their sober doublets and sometimes lavish ruffs, are the pillars of this society, their lives dictated by contracts, credit, and the volatile vagaries of overseas trade. They deal in promissory notes and bonds, legal agreements that bind one person to another for a sum of money or a stipulated action, much like the one that would famously entangle a certain merchant named Antonio. You notice a man with a stern, perhaps weary expression pass you, his gaze distant, as if burdened by unseen cares. In this city of relentless trade, outward prosperity often masked inner turmoil, or perhaps, motivations far more complex than a simple desire for profit. Here, beneath the clang of commerce and the endless flow of humanity, judgments are swift, and appearances often deceive. What truly drives a man to stake his all on a risky venture, or to harbor a deep, silent sadness amidst bustling success? Shakespeare, a keen observer of these very streets, understood that behind every public face, a labyrinth of private motives could exist, waiting to be unraveled, challenging us to look beyond the surface and ask, what truly lies within the human heart? The cacophony of London's Cheapside in 1598 intensifies as the morning progresses. You find yourself pressed amongst a tide of humanity, navigating the narrow lanes as if you were a ship in a bustling harbour. Above the general hum of conversation and the clip-clop of hooves on cobblestones, a new chorus rises, the insistent rhythmic cries of street vendors, each competing for your attention. Hot pies, a boy shouts, his voice cracking as he weaves through the crowd, a tray of steaming pastries balanced precariously on his head. The savory scent of mutton and rich spices wafts tantalizingly close. You sidestep a woman hawking fresh river fish, their scales still shimmering wetly, her call of, "New mackerel." New mackerel, sharp and clear. Then from another direction a gentler voice offers, sweet lavender, a welcome fragrance to momentarily cut through the city's less pleasant odors. You feel the constant brush of wool and linen against your jerkin, the press of bodies a familiar reality in this metropolis. There's a constant stream of people, apprentices running errands, merchants hurrying to the Royal Exchange, finely dressed gentlefolk, and the ever-present poor. Each face is a fleeting glimpse, a fleeting story in a city of nearly 200,000 souls. It's easy to get lost, not just physically, but in the sheer anonymity that such a crowd provides. Here, beneath the din and a multitude of faces, one can easily wear a mask, revealing only what is deemed appropriate for public consumption. Consider the merchant Antonio, whose unexplained melancholy we touched upon yesterday. In this very hub of London he would have walked these same crowded streets, his public demeanor of sober wealth, at odds with the profound sadness he confessed to his friends. The clamor of the market, the demands of trade, all would have surrounded him, yet his inner world remained a mystery, a silent personal burden. How many others, you wonder, moved through these teeming lanes, their true feelings and motivations concealed behind a composed expression or a practiced stride, their inner landscapes as complex and unreadable as any of Shakespeare's characters. As the sun climbs higher, casting fleeting shadows between the tall buildings, the city's pulse quickens. It's a world of constant motion, where outward appearances are often all we have to judge by, leaving the true depths of the heart and mind to remain, like the whispers of the crowd, tantalizingly out of reach. It's a hazy afternoon in 1604, and you're standing at the edge of a tanner's yard in Bermondsey, just south of the Thames. A potent, almost overwhelming smell hangs heavy in the air, a mix of raw hide, stale urine used for processing, and the earthy tang of oak bark. It's the smell of industry, of transformation, of a trade essential for producing the leather that clothes and equips much of Elizabethan and Jacobean England. Before you, an apprentice, perhaps no older than 15, strains over a large wooden vat. His bare forearms are red and chafed. His hands, though young, are already calloused and stained from their constant immersion in the foul-smelling liquors that strip the hair from animal skins and prepare them for tanning. You can see the steam rising from the vats, an indication of the hot water used in some stages of this arduous process. He uses a scudding knife, a blunt tool, to scrape remnants of flesh and hair from a stretched hide. A monotonous and physically demanding task. The ground beneath your well-worn boots is a perpetually damp, muddy affair, littered with scraps of hide and wood shavings. The sounds are a rhythmic chorus, the scraping of knives, the sloshing of water, the occasional grunt of exertion from the workman. This is not a glamorous trade, but an honest, if dirty, living. Apprentices would sign indentures, formal contracts, committing themselves for 7 years or more, learning the trade from a master, in exchange for food, lodging, and training. It's a harsh discipline, but it offers a path to becoming a skilled craftsman. You watch the apprentice's focused face, grimy with sweat and dirt. What dreams does he harbor beyond this pungent yard? What unseen thoughts occupy him as he works? In this period, where social mobility was rare, one's trade often defined a life. Yet even within these structured lives, personal ambitions and hidden resentments could simmer. This world of hard labor, of lives shaped by demanding crafts, provides a powerful parallel to the concealed motives we find in Shakespeare's characters. Just as the tanner's apprentice works to transform raw hide into something useful, so too might a character like Iago subtly work to shape events, his true intentions hidden beneath the surface of his actions. Here, amidst the earthy smells and ceaseless toil, you sense that beneath every outward task a complex human story full of untold motivations quietly unfolds. It's a quiet, cool morning in 1604, and you are stepping into a glover's workshop in a modest London side street. Unlike the tanner's yard, here the dominant scent is that of finely cured leather, soft and earthy, mingling with the faint, sweet smell of beeswax used to strengthen thread and condition materials. The only sounds are the precise snip of small shears cutting patterns from delicate kidskin, the rhythmic pull of thread through fine needlework, and the gentle sigh of a bellows coaxing a tiny flame for a wax pot. A glover, his spectacles perched on his nose, sits by a window, bathed in the soft, diffused light of dawn. His hands are surprisingly nimble for their age, manipulating a piece of supple white leather. He's meticulously stitching the thumb gusset, a small, shaped piece of leather that forms the thumb of a glove, onto a lady's gauntlet, a type of long decorative glove. You notice the tiny, even stitches, a testament to years of practice and an eye for detail. This is a craft demanding immense patience and skill. On his wooden workbench, neatly arranged, are various tools of his trade. A rack of paper patterns for different glove styles, small, sharp knives for cutting, and thimbles of polished horn. Beside him, a pile of finished gloves showcases the variety. Sturdy leather gloves for riding, delicate embroidered gloves for gentlewomen, and simple everyday pairs. Gloves were more than just clothing. They were significant status symbols, often richly adorned with embroidery, lace, or even pearls, speaking volumes about the wearer's wealth and social standing. You recall that William Shakespeare's own father, John, was a master glover in Stratford-upon-Avon. He would have known this precise work. The feel of fine leather, the quiet dedication required. It's a craft of presentation, where the outward finish is paramount, often concealing the raw material and hard labor beneath. This pursuit of perfection in appearance resonates deeply with the mysteries we explore. Just as a perfectly crafted glove can conceal the hand, so too can a character's outward demeanor mask their true intentions. In Shakespeare's world, a cunning villain like Iago or a seemingly mad prince like Hamlet might be presenting a carefully stitched performance, their genuine motivations hidden beneath a flawless, or perhaps deliberately flawed surface. This quiet workshop, with its emphasis on creating a perfect external form, serves as a poignant reminder that appearances can often be a deliberate artifice, hinting at a complex inner truth that we, like the glover, must patiently work to uncover. It's a cool, quiet morning in 1606, and you're standing inside a weaver's cottage, perhaps in a village just outside Stratford-upon-Avon. The most prominent sound is the rhythmic, almost hypnotic clatter of the loom, a heavy wooden frame that dominates the room. It's a sound that speaks of diligent labor, a steady pulse that has echoed through countless cottages for centuries. The shuttle, a boat-shaped device holding the weft thread, flies swiftly back and forth through the warp, the lengthwise threads stretched taut on the loom. Then comes the satisfying thud, as the batten, a heavy wooden frame, pushes the newly laid thread tightly into place, compacting the fabric. The air here smells faintly of clean wool and damp earth, a natural scent woven into the very fabric of daily life. Through a small leaded window, the soft morning light illuminates dust motes dancing in the air, catching the vibrant colors of spun yarn stacked on shelves, deep indigo, rich madder red, and natural undyed cream. You can see the weaver, a man with strong, practiced hands, his face etched with concentration, as he carefully guides the shuttle. His gaze is fixed on the emerging cloth, a complex pattern of intersecting lines and colors slowly taking shape. Weaving is an ancient craft, essential to England's economy. From the raw wool shorn from the sheep you heard yesterday to the finished cloth, every step is a testament to human ingenuity and painstaking effort. The weaver's skill lies in controlling each thread, ensuring the warp and weft interlace perfectly to create a strong, beautiful fabric. One misplaced thread, one knot unnoticed, could mar the entire piece. Yet from these seemingly simple repetitive actions, intricate and often surprising designs emerge. This quiet, meticulous process of weaving offers a compelling parallel to the way Shakespeare crafted his most enigmatic characters. Just as a weaver carefully lays thread upon thread to create a larger pattern, so too did Shakespeare layer dialogue, action, and subtle hints to build characters whose true motives are never entirely laid bare. Consider Lady Macbeth. On the surface, she is a woman of terrifying ambition, urging her husband to bloody deeds. Yet, there is a thread of humanity, a glimpse of a maternal past, subtly woven into her words. She famously declares, "I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me." This single declaration, a quiet thread in the dark tapestry of her character, suggests a complexity beyond mere villainy. Where are her children? Is her ruthlessness a reaction to loss, a sublimation of pain into ambition? The text gives us no easy answer, no simple yes or no. Instead, like the unseen knots in a richly woven cloth, it invites us to look closer, to seek the hidden patterns and unspoken stories that give her, and so many of Shakespeare's characters, their enduring, mysterious power. The deepening twilight of this 1606 evening draws you indoors, into a simple cottage somewhere in rural England, away from the clamour of London. The main source of warmth and light is the crackling fire in the hearth, its orange glow painting dancing shadows on the plastered walls. You feel the inviting heat radiating outwards, chasing away the pervasive damp chill of a January evening. The air is rich with the comforting, earthy smell of wood smoke, and the simmering scent of dinner, pottage. You settle onto a rough wooden stool, the worn surface smooth beneath your hand. A rushlight, a simple taper made from the pith of a rush dipped in melted animal fat, gutters softly on a nearby shelf, casting a modest circle of light. It's enough illumination for the evening's tasks. You take a wooden spoon and taste the pottage, a thick, nourishing stew of peas, root vegetables, and perhaps a scrap of salted meat, a staple of every Elizabethan meal. Its warmth spreads through you, a simple comfort after a day spent outdoors. Beside you, a woman, her face softened by the firelight, methodically mends a torn tunic. Her needle flashes in the dim light, pulling coarse wool thread through sturdy linen. You notice the patchwork of older repairs on the garment, each patch a testament to the value of every piece of cloth, and the necessity of making things last. This is not merely a chore, but a quiet act of preservation, ensuring warmth and decency for another season. In these hushed, firelit moments, when the day's physical demands recede, minds are often free to wander, to turn inwards. It's in such quiet intimacy that worries can fester, or complex thoughts can slowly take root. The outer world falls silent, allowing the inner world to come to the fore. Consider how much of Hamlet's turmoil, for instance, occurs in the private chambers of his mind, away from the public eye. Or the torment of Lady Macbeth, whose ambition and guilt slowly consume her in the quiet hours. This domestic scene, so outwardly calm and unremarkable, reminds you that even in the most ordinary lives, profound inner landscapes exist, full of unspoken thoughts and concealed struggles. Like the flickering shadows on the wall, our deepest motivations are often glimpsed, but rarely fully revealed, leaving us to wonder at the enduring mysteries of the human heart. It's a cool late afternoon in 1600, and you're gliding along the Thames in a small flat-bottomed boat called a wherry. The wherryman, a sturdy fellow with powerful arms, expertly guides his craft with a single oar, propelling you eastwards. The river, London's bustling liquid highway, is a tapestry of dark, swirling currents, reflecting the bruised purples and oranges of the setting sun. The air is surprisingly fresh here, carrying the damp scent of river water mixed with the faint, distant aroma of coal fires, and the city's myriad other smells. As you pass beneath the 20 arches of Old London Bridge, a sprawling settlement of houses and shops built directly on its stone, you feel the swift pull of the tide, the cries of other wherrymen, calling out for fares or warning of their approach, echo across the water, a constant chorus. On your right, the bankside, beyond the reach of the city's strict guilds, begins to glow with the promise of evening entertainment. You can just make out the distinctive circular shape of the newly built Globe Theatre, where Shakespeare's plays are now being performed. From this vantage point on the water, the city takes on a different aspect. The grand houses of the nobility and the towering spires of the churches appear majestic, yet also somehow detached, their busy inner lives concealed behind formidable walls. The very buildings seem to present one face to the river, another to the crowded streets within. This idea of presenting different faces, of being viewed in varying lights, resonates with so many of Shakespeare's characters. Think of Caliban from Time to Tempest. From Prospero's perspective, he is a thing of darkness, an ungrateful monster, deserving of servitude. But from your quiet place on the river, perhaps you glimpse him as a colonized native, stripped of his birthright, his curses, understandable cries of rebellion. Or Duke Vincencio in Stripped to Measure for Measure *, whose benevolent exterior as a ruler is peeled away by his manipulative actions, leaving us to wonder if he is a wise leader or a puppet master. As the last light fades, the city's lights begin to twinkle, scattering across the water like fallen stars. The river continues its silent flow, its depths holding secrets, much like the hidden motivations that Shakespeare's characters guard so carefully. And as the wherryman pulls for the shore, you are left to ponder how often true character is shaped not by what is seen, but by what lies beneath the surface, waiting for a shift in perspective to reveal its hidden truths. It's a vibrant, chilly evening in 1600, and you're stepping onto the bustling quayside of Queenhithe, one of London's oldest and most vital docks. The air is thick with the rich, complex scent of international trade, the sharp, resinous smell of tar from the ship's rigging, the briny tang of the Thames, and, most distinctly, the exotic perfume of foreign goods. Here the world converges on London. The rhythmic shouts of the stevedores, the men who load and unload ships, echo across the cobblestones, mingling with the creak of ropes and the splash of cargo being lowered from towering carracks and smaller caravels. You watch as immense wooden barrels are rolled down gangplanks, their contents whispered to be Portuguese wine, and bales of cloth, perhaps shimmering silks from Persia, are hoisted onto carts. The rough hemp rope chafes against the pulley, a sound of tireless labor. Everywhere activity surges, even as dusk gathers. You notice a particular aroma from an opening crate, the sweet spicy scent of cloves, mixed with the warmer notes of ginger and black pepper, precious commodities from the East Indies that fetch high prices in the city's markets. This is where fortunes are won and lost, where the distant, often perilous voyages of discovery truly land. Each ship represents not just cargo, but immense financial risk for the merchants who fund these expeditions. They provide bonds, a promise to pay, often with collateral, allowing the risky ventures to go forward. This scene, bustling with the exchange of goods and the weight of financial speculation, brings to mind the intertwined fates of Antonio and Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. Antonio, a merchant like those here, stakes his entire fortune on ships at sea, vulnerable to the whims of weather and piracy. His unexplained melancholy, which we pondered yesterday, might be the silent burden of such constant, immense risk. And Shylock the moneylender, often cast as a villain, is fundamentally a product of this financial world, his bond a harsh but common legal instrument of the era. In this environment, where the value of a man's word and the security of his investments are constantly tested, the line between justice and vengeance, between shrewd business and ruthless exploitation, becomes blurred. The foreign spices, so enticing to the senses, also carry the weight of distant conflicts and economic tensions. As the last of the cargo is secured for the night, you are left to consider how easily the surface of wealth and trade can conceal deeper currents of human motivation and long-held grievances, waiting, like the tide, to rise and shift the very landscape of human lives. It's a cool, dusty morning in 1608, and you're standing backstage in the Globe Theatre's tiring house, the bustling area where actors would dress and prepare. The air is thick, with the scent of unwashed woolen costumes, the faint sweetness of grease paint, and the musty aroma of aged timber. Through a narrow opening, you can glimpse the sunlit stage, momentarily empty, waiting for the players to breathe life into it. The space is surprisingly cramped, a labyrinth of chests overflowing with props and costumes. A heavy cloak of dark velvet, perhaps worn by a king yesterday, lies carelessly over a drum. Nearby, a collection of false beards and wigs, made from real human hair, hangs from wooden pegs, silent witnesses to countless transformations. You notice the worn wooden floorboards, smoothed by the hurried footsteps of actors rushing to make their cues. A small group of actors is gathered, not yet in full costume, running lines for a new play. Their voices, usually booming across the yard, are hushed now, almost conversational, as they seek the precise rhythm and meaning of Shakespeare's verse. You hear the rustle of a boy actor, likely no older than 15, practicing a delicate gesture. He would play the female roles, his youthful voice trained to mimic a woman's higher pitch. This reliance on boy actors for heroines was a cornerstone of Jacobean theatre, influencing how female characters were written and performed. This very space is a crucible of transformation, where ordinary men become kings, villains, and lovers. Here, identities are assumed and shed with astonishing speed. The players themselves are masters of illusion, crafting appearances and embodying emotions that may or may not reflect their true selves. This constant shifting of roles and presentation illuminates the very heart of Shakespeare's most mysterious characters. Consider Hamlet, whose antic disposition, his feigned madness, is a performance within a performance. Was it truly madness, or a brilliant, dangerous act designed to uncover the truth? And what of Viola in Twelfth Night*? who disguises herself as Cesario, serving as a man at court. Her outer appearance completely contradicts her inner reality, creating a compelling exploration of gender and identity. In this tiring house, where every prop and costume is a tool of illusion, you are reminded that Shakespeare understood the profound power of surfaces, and how often the most profound truths are hidden just beneath, waiting for us, the audience, to peel back the layers and discover the enduring mysteries within. It's a bright, blustery afternoon in 1608, and you're seated in one of the wooden galleries of the Globe Theatre. Below you, the vast pit open to the sky swarms with groundlings, who paid a mere penny to stand through the performance. Their collective murmur, a low, constant hum, rises to a roar of anticipation as the play is about to begin. The air, surprisingly fresh given the crowds, still carries the mingled scents of sweat, small beer, a weak, safer brew than water, and the sharp citrus tang of discarded orange peels. From your vantage point on a hard wooden bench, for which you paid a shilling or two, you have an excellent view of the heavens, the painted canopy above the stage, and the tiring house facade, which resembles an Elizabethan manor, offering various entry points for actors. The stage itself, a thrust platform, extends right into the audience, creating a powerful intimacy. There is no curtain, no dimming of lights. The illusion begins in broad daylight, demanding a vivid imagination. The actors burst onto the stage, their rich, often anachronistic costumes, a splash of color against the plain background. The groundlings respond with boisterous laughter, shouts of approval, or even heckling, their energy, a palpable force that fuels the performance. You feel the tremor of the wooden structure as they stomp their feet, wholly immersed in the unfolding drama. Even with such immediate, visceral engagement, Shakespeare's plays deliberately leave questions hanging, inviting the audience to draw their own conclusions. Consider the tragic Ophelia. When her death is reported, the descriptions are ambiguous. Was it a deliberate act of self-slaughter, a suicide that was a grave sin in Elizabethan England, or a sorrowful accident, a slip into the stream that her heavy garments made fatal? An actor's portrayal might lean one way or another, but the words themselves leave the door open, allowing the horror to be interpreted by each viewer according to their own heart and beliefs. And then there is King Lear's fool. He offers wisdom and comfort, a poignant counterpoint to Lear's descent into madness, then simply disappears from the play. The text gives no explicit reason for his absence. Did he die? Did he simply wander off, his purpose fulfilled? In this bustling theatre, with its vibrant life and sudden silences, you are left to ponder these unanswered questions, realizing that even in the most powerfully staged moments, Shakespeare's brilliance lies in the enduring mysteries he leaves for us to unravel long after the final bow. It's a sweltering summer market day in 1602, and you're stepping into the vibrant chaos of Gracechurch Market in London. The sun beats down on the open stalls, intensifying the rich, earthy smells of fresh produce. Ripe strawberries piled high, the pungent scent of onions, and the sweet aroma of newly cut herbs like rosemary and thyme. Above the general din, the cacophony of hundreds of voices haggling, greeting, and calling out wares creates a symphony of urban life. You navigate the narrow lanes between the stalls, feeling the press of bodies, the warmth of the crowd. The cobblestones, slick in places with discarded fruit peelings and mud, are rough under your leather shoes. A woman in a simple linen coif meticulously weighs beans on a set of brass scales, her brow furrowed in concentration. Nearby, a butcher, his leather apron stained crimson, cleaves meat with a heavy, rhythmic thud. Children dart through the legs of adults, their laughter bright and fleeting, occasionally bumping into a heavily laden basket. This market is the beating heart of the city's daily sustenance, a place where people from all walks of life converge. Merchants shout, "What do you lack?" meaning, "What do you need?" while apprentices weave through the throng, carrying their masters' purchases. There's an undeniable energy here, a sense that anything could happen, a playful disorder that sometimes skirts the edge of genuine chaos. This vibrant unpredictability, this mix of delight and disruption, brings to mind one of Shakespeare's most enduringly mysterious sprites, Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream. On the surface, Puck is often seen as harmlessly mischievous, a playful fairy whose greatest joy is to collier, make fairies and mortals err. He delights in confusion, whether it's leading wanderers astray in the forest or accidentally misapplying a love potion. His charm lies in his impish glee, a creature of pure, elemental fun. Yet, as you observe the playful jostle in the market, the small accidents, the sudden fright of a horse, you might ask yourself, is Puck merely mischievous? Or is there a touch of genuine malice, a delight in genuine suffering, in his actions? When he turns Bottom's head into an arse, or causes the four lovers such agonizing confusion, his reckless pranks have real consequences. Scholars have debated whether he's an innocent trickster, or a darker, more ambiguous force, a reflection of the untamed, sometimes cruel, side of nature and magic in Elizabethan folklore. Does he just observe the chaos, or does he actively revel in stirring it, pushing events towards unpredictable, even painful ends? As you step away from the immediate bustle, the sounds and smells lingering around you, you're left with the notion that even in what appears to be simple fun, there can be a hidden current of deeper, more profound impact. Like the elusive Puck, the boundaries between innocent trickery and deliberate harm can be as fluid and shifting as the shadows cast by the summer sun in Gracechurch Market. It's a cool, busy morning in 1604, and you are stepping into a draper's shop in a bustling London street, perhaps just off Cheapside. The air inside is still and calm, rich with the dry, earthy scent of fine wool and the faint, woody aroma of freshly cut fabric. Sunlight, muted by the overhanging timber frames of the buildings outside, streams through the leaded windows, illuminating bolts of cloth stacked high on shelves against the walls. Before you, a draper's apprentice, a young man with a serious countenance, is meticulously unrolling a bolt of rich crimson broadcloth, a thick, densely woven woolen fabric prized for its warmth and durability. He lays it flat on the long wooden counter, the material heavy and smooth beneath his hands. With a long, polished wooden yardstick, he measures out an L, a traditional unit of length, approximately 45 inches, for a waiting customer. The precise snip of his shears through the sturdy fabric is a crisp, satisfying sound, followed by the soft rustle, as he folds the cloth with practiced care. Drapers were important merchants, dealing in all manner of textile goods, from rough homespun to luxurious silks. Their apprentices, bound for years of service under an indenture, learned not only the trade, but also the importance of honest measure and a trustworthy demeanor. This quiet precision in handling valuable goods, the outward show of reliability, was key to their business. This setting, where careful measurement and outward appearance are paramount, offers a stark contrast to the unraveling mysteries of character we've been exploring. Consider Iago, the villain of Cara Contrast to Contrast. On the surface he presents himself as honest Iago, a loyal soldier, and a straightforward man, much like the honest draper whose dealings are transparent. He even offers reasons for his hatred: Cassio's promotion over him, a suspicion that Othello slept with his wife, Emilia. But as you watch the apprentice smooth the broadcloth, you realize Iago's motivations are never so neatly cut or clearly laid out. His reasons shift, multiply, and often contradict one another, never quite adding up to explain the sheer depth of his villainy. Is he simply jealous? Does he harbor a deeper, perhaps subconscious malice? Is it a profound racial hatred that drives him to destroy Othello? The text, like a tangled spool of thread, offers many possibilities but no single, definitive answer. His final chilling silence, "From this time forth I never will speak word," only deepens the enigma. As the apprentice finishes wrapping the cloth, you are left to ponder how a character can present such a clear, functional exterior, yet conceal such a dark and complex interior. Like the hidden flaws in a seemingly perfect weave, Iago's true motivations remain one of Shakespeare's most unsettling and enduring puzzles, inviting us to forever question the surfaces of things, and the dark, unspoken currents that lie beneath. It's a cool, early evening in 1611, and you are stepping into the lively courtyard of the George Inn in Southwark, just across the Thames from London. This magnificent timber-framed galleried inn, one of the last remaining of its kind, hums with the convivial sounds of post-performance revelry. The air is thick with the scent of roasted mutton from the kitchens, mingling with the yeasty aroma of ale and the sweeter, smoky hint of tobacco, a relatively new import from the Americas. You choose a spot on a worn wooden bench in one of the open galleries, overlooking the cobbled courtyard, where a cart has just delivered a fresh barrel of brew. The clatter of earthenware tankards raised in toasts and set down with purpose provides a rhythmic backdrop to the murmur of conversations. Actors, still somewhat flushed from their afternoon performance at the nearby Globe or Rose playhouses, gather in small groups, their voices carrying snippets of verses and boisterous laughter. These inns were vital social hubs, offering lodging, food and, crucially, a stage for traveling players before purpose-built theatres emerged. You raise a pewter tankard of Malmsey, a sweet, dark wine often imported from Madeira, its rich taste a welcome warmth in the evening air. As you sip, you observe a group of players discussing a recent production, perhaps times The Tempest *, a play first performed just last year. They speak of the illusions, the spirits, and the powerful magic wielded by the exiled Duke Prospero. On the surface, Prospero's magic seems benevolent, a tool for justice and restoration, orchestrating a storm to bring his enemies to him, and finally reclaiming his rightful dukedom. It is the magic of the Renaissance, often tied to scholarly pursuits and an understanding of the natural world, rather than dark sorcery. But as you listen, you recall the deeper debates that even an Elizabethan audience might have had. Is Prospero's magic truly benign, an allegory for the playwright's own power to create worlds and manipulate characters on a stage, much like Shakespeare himself? Or is it a reflection of more esoteric practices like alchemy seeking to transform human nature? Some scholars even wonder if it hints at something darker, given his absolute control over Ariel and Caliban, and the seemingly arbitrary nature of some of his punishments. He uses his arts to conjure storms and spirits, and then, at the play's end, famously abjures his rough magic, breaking his staff and drowning his book. But why? In this vibrant inn, a place of stories and illusions, you are reminded that the line between theatrical spectacle and genuine power, between benevolent control and darker manipulation, can be as blurry as the shadows cast by the inn's lanterns. Prospero's magic, like so many aspects of Shakespeare's genius, leaves us to ponder its true nature, inviting endless interpretation as the evening deepens and the firelight dances. It's late evening in 1611, and the boisterous energy of the George Inn in Southwark has begun to mellow, though it still hums with life. You find a seat in a shadowed corner of one of the galleries, away from the roaring central fire, where only the flickering light of a few tallow candles illuminates the scene. The air here is denser, thick with the earthy scent of pipe tobacco, a relatively new pleasure recently introduced from the New World, mingling with the pervasive aroma of stale ale and damp wood. Before you, a small group of men, mostly minor merchants and perhaps a scrivener, a professional copyist, are engaged in a game of dice. The rhythmic click and rattle of the bone dice against the scarred wooden table is a low, insistent sound, punctuated by hushed exclamations and the occasional clink of copper pennies changing hands. Each man leans forward, his face caught in the shifting light, revealing a mixture of concentration, hope, and veiled anxiety. Their breath plumes lightly in the cool air, and the smoke from their clay pipes curls lazily upwards, creating a veil that seems to absorb secrets. Gambling was a common pastime in these Jacobean taverns, a blend of skill and pure chance that could quickly elevate or dash a man's fortunes. You watch a player gather the dice in his hand, his grip tight, his eyes darting across the faces of his opponents, trying to read their unspoken intentions, to guess their luck. It's a game of hidden cards, of calculated risks, and of trusting or mistrusting the outcome of random events. This atmosphere of veiled motives and unpredictable outcomes brings us to perhaps Shakespeare's most enigmatic character, Iago from Othello. On the surface, Iago offers multiple reasons for his hatred and desire to destroy Othello. He was passed over for promotion, he suspects Othello slept with his wife Emilia, and he dislikes the Moor. He's like a gambler throwing out various bets, hoping one will stick. Yet, none of his stated reasons feel quite sufficient. None quite add up to explain the sheer depth of his villainy, his almost gleeful embrace of destruction. Is it envy? Pure malice? A deep-seated racism? His motivations remain as shrouded and elusive as the pipe smoke curling through this inn. Shakespeare deliberately crafted Iago with what many scholars call motiveless malignity, leaving us, the audience, to grapple with the disturbing possibility that some evil exists simply for its own sake, without a single, logical origin. As the dice roll once more and a soft groan escapes one of the players, you reflect on how the uncertain turn of a die, or the shifting reasons of a villain, mirrors the deeper mysteries in life. The enduring power of Iago, much like the lingering scent of smoke in this candlelit corner, lies in his refusal to be neatly defined, forcing us to confront the unsettling ambiguities of human nature, and the unsettling knowledge that some puzzles may never be fully solved. It's a cool, quiet morning in 1609, and you are browsing a bookstall nestled in the shadow of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. The air here, though still part of the city's hum, carries the distinct dry scent of aged paper, fresh ink, and the fainter aroma of the damp stone of the towering cathedral itself. You feel the cool breeze whisper through the narrow lane, stirring the leaves of unbound pamphlets and quartos stacked high on the wooden tables. The stall, barely sheltered by a canvas awning, presents a treasure trove of learning and diversion. You run your fingers over the rough texture of coarse paper, then the smoother, finer vellum of a more expensive volume. Printers and booksellers clustered around St. Paul's churchyard, making this area the vibrant heart of London's literary world. Here you might find anything from sermons and political pamphlets, to maps of newly discovered lands, or the latest play printed for a curious public. The books are often simply bound in limp parchment or paper, meant to be read and then perhaps rebound by their owner. You see handwritten titles on some spines, while others proudly display their printer's mark. It's a quiet bustle, with scholars, students, and curious citizens like yourself pausing to examine the wares. A young apprentice meticulously arranges new sheets of paper, still smelling faintly of the press before they are sent to the binder. This physical reality of books in Shakespeare's time reveals a particular kind of mystery. Unlike modern standardized editions, early printed versions of plays, known as quartos and later the first folio, often varied significantly. Lines could be changed, stage directions added or omitted, and even entire speeches might differ. It's like finding several slightly different maps of the same complex city. This unreliable text problem means that the very words defining Shakespeare's most enigmatic characters are themselves open to debate. Consider how Hamlet's famous "to be or not to be" soliloquy appears in several distinct early editions, each offering subtle variations that could shift our understanding of his inner turmoil. Was his madness real, or a brilliant performance? The nuances in these texts sometimes present differing clues. Such textual ambiguities, born from the very act of printing in this era, add another layer of enduring mystery to the characters. As you turn a page, the faint whisper of paper reminds you that even the most meticulously recorded words can carry hidden complexities. These textual differences challenge us to ponder whether some of Shakespeare's characters were deliberately crafted with multiple potential meanings, their very essence shifting slightly with each edition, inviting endless scholarly detective work to truly decode their hidden motivations. It's a bustling, yet somehow hushed morning in 1609, and you are stepping deeper into a printer's shop, not far from St. Paul's Cathedral. The air is warm, heavy, with the unique, oily scent of fresh printer's ink, and the subtle, cloying smell of tallow from the candles that burn even in daylight in the dimmer corners. The rhythmic creak and groan of the wooden hand press dominates the soundscape, punctuated by the soft slap of paper and the distinct metallic clink of type. You watch a journeyman printer, his leather apron smudged with ink, carefully arrange individual lead letters into a wooden frame called a composing stick. Each letter is picked with astonishing speed and precision, a mirror image of the final text. This painstaking process, known as typesetting, is followed by placing the composed type into a larger chase, or frame, which is then locked tight. His hands are stained a deep, permanent black, a badge of his trade. He then inks the type, pulls a sheet of damp paper from a stack, and expertly places it on the platen before pulling the heavy lever of the press. The satisfying crunch of paper meeting metal is the sound of words coming into being. This manual, laborious process means that every book, every pamphlet, every play printed in Shakespeare's time was susceptible to human error. A misplaced letter, a missed line, or even a printer's deliberate alteration could creep into the text. Furthermore, the master of the revels, a government official, meticulously censored plays before they were performed, and often again before they were printed, sometimes demanding changes that could subtly alter a character's perceived motivations, or a play's political message. These realities of Jacobean printing profoundly impacted how Shakespeare's characters reached their audience, and how we interpret them today. Consider the inconsistencies between different early editions of the same play, the quartos, and the later First Folio. Minor variations in wording or the addition or omission of stage directions, for instance, could subtly shift our understanding of Hamlet's true state of mind, or the exact circumstances of Ophelia's death. Was she truly suicidal, or was it a tragic accident? The textual evidence itself can be debated. As you step closer to inspect a newly printed sheet, its ink still slightly tacky, you are reminded that even the most definitive-seeming words can carry inherent ambiguities. These unreliable texts are not a flaw, but a testament to the living, evolving nature of Shakespeare's art. They invite us, centuries later, to become textual detectives, forever unraveling the layers of meaning, challenging us to look beyond the printed page, and keeping these enigmatic characters timelessly alive in our ongoing search for their hidden truths. It's a solemn morning in 1610, and you are stepping from the bustling London street into the hushed interior of a parish church. The air instantly grows cooler, thick with the scent of damp stone, ancient oak, and the faint, sweet decay of old flowers left on memorials. Your footsteps echo softly on the worn flagstones as you move deeper into the nave, the main body of the church. Above you, the high, vaulted ceiling seems to stretch towards the heavens, its dark timbers silently holding centuries of prayers. The only illumination comes from the stained glass windows, filtering the winter light into muted greens, deep blues and ruby reds, casting jewel-toned patterns across the cold stone pillars and rough wooden pews. The world outside, with its clamor and commerce, feels distant, almost unreal, replaced by a profound sense of peace and permanence. You sit upon a hard oak pew, the wood smooth from generations of touch. This church is not just a place of worship, it is the spiritual heart of the community, where every significant moment of life, from baptism to burial, unfolds. Here, the weight of spiritual doctrine is palpable. In Shakespeare's time, the teachings of the Church of England profoundly shaped the understanding of life, death, and salvation. Suicide, for instance, was considered a grievous sin, a crime against God, carrying severe social and spiritual consequences, including the refusal of a Christian burial in consecrated ground. This solemnity, this understanding of eternal stakes, deepens the mystery of certain characters. Consider Ophelia, from Minjan II at Ackley. When news of her death reaches the court, the circumstances are shrouded in ambiguity. The Queen describes her falling into a brook while weaving garlands, her heavy clothes pulling her down. Was it a tragic accident, a moment of profound distraction and grief? Or was it a deliberate act, a suicide driven by her overwhelming sorrow and madness? The text deliberately leaves it unclear. For an Elizabethan audience, this distinction was not merely dramatic, it was eternal. An accidental drowning would allow for a Christian burial, as Ophelia receives, albeit reluctantly, from the priest. A suicide, however, would condemn her soul in the eyes of many. Shakespeare masterfully maintains this tension, forcing us to grapple with the uncertainty. Her fate, like the shadows dancing in the filtered light of this church, remains forever open to interpretation, a poignant puzzle whose pieces never quite fit into a single, definitive answer. The quiet mystery of her end, framed by the rigid beliefs of the era, ensures she remains one of Shakespeare's most debated and heart-wrenching figures. It's late morning in 1610, and the last echoing strains of the sermon have faded from the parish church. You emerge into the churchyard, blinking in the soft winter light. The air, though still crisp, smells of damp earth and the fainter remnants of incense. The congregation, dressed in their best woolen gowns and doublets, begins to disperse, their quiet murmurs growing into a more sociable hum. This is a time not just for spiritual reflection, but for community connection, for catching up on news and perhaps for a bit of parish gossip. You join a small group making their way towards a nearby larger house, invited for a shared Sunday meal. The wooden shoes of the villagers clatter lightly on the well-trodden path. Soon you are inside, welcomed by the inviting warmth of a robust fire blazing in a large stone hearth. The room is filled with the tantalizing aroma of roast meat, likely beef or venison, mingling with the sweeter scent of baked apples and fresh bread. You take a seat at a long trestle table, its surface smoothed by countless meals. Platters laden with food are passed around. Generous cuts of roast, root vegetables stewed with herbs, and great chunks of warm wheaten bread. You pick up a piece, its crust firm and its interior soft, and scoop a dollop of gravy onto it. Small beer or cider, safer to drink than most water, is poured from a large jug into earthenware tankards. The conversation flows freely, turning from the sermon's message to the harvests, to local news, and to the reputations of absent neighbors. In this tightly knit community, a person's public standing, often shaped by rumor and popular opinion, holds immense weight. This communal judgment, both whispered and openly stated, offers a lens through which to consider characters like Shylock, the Jewish moneylender from The Merchant of Venice. To an Elizabethan audience, living in a country where Jewish people had been expelled centuries ago, and only caricatured versions existed in popular lore, Shylock would have been, on the surface, an easy villain. The Christian characters of Venice scorn him, abuse him, and call him a dog. He is often seen through the filter of pervasive anti-Semitic stereotypes of the time. Yet Shakespeare, with his genius for human complexity, also weaves in threads of profound sympathy for Shylock. He gives him the heart-wrenching, "hath not a Jew eyes" speech, forcing the audience to confront his humanity, his pain, and the injustices he suffers at the hands of Venice's Christian society. Is he a cruel villain, or a tragic victim driven to vengeance by unrelenting prejudice? In this shared meal, amidst the judgments and gossip of a close-knit community, you are reminded that simple labels rarely capture the full truth of a person. Shylock remains a deeply ambiguous figure, his motivations forever debated, challenging us to look beyond societal prejudice and seek the deeper, often uncomfortable, humanity within. It's a brisk morning in 1606, and you are a traveler on the ancient road leading towards Oxford. The air is fresh and clear, carrying the earthy scent of damp soil and newly budding spring leaves. The rhythmic clip-clop of your horse's hooves on the rutted track is the dominant sound, a steady, comforting drumbeat that measures out the miles. Before you, the winding road stretches through a landscape of rolling hills and distant woodlands, the bare branches of oak trees beginning to show a faint blush of green. You wear sturdy leather breeches and a thick cloak against the morning chill, feeling the slight sway and jolt of your mount beneath you. Traveling in Shakespeare's England is a slow, often solitary affair, punctuated by the occasional passing of a merchant's cart or a group of other riders. The roads, though improved since medieval times, are still rough, prone to becoming muddy quagmires after rain. You pass small thatched cottages, their chimneys sending thin plumes of smoke into the sky, and glimpse villagers already at work in their fields, tilling the soil for the spring planting. This journey, physically demanding yet offering ample time for thought, reminds you of the traveling players who would traverse these very roads, moving from court to inn to theatre, bringing stories to every corner of England. Their lives were itinerant, their tools few, a trunk of costumes, a handful of props, and their own formidable talent. An acting company, like the Lord Chamberlain's Men, where Shakespeare was a shareholder, was a small, close-knit band, and often, actors would play multiple roles within the same play, sometimes, even within the same scene. This practical necessity of the Elizabethan stage illuminates one of Shakespeare's most poignant and debated mysteries, the sudden disappearance of King Lear's fool. The fool, a figure of profound wisdom and unwavering loyalty, accompanies Lear through his darkest torment, offering bitter truths and heart-wrenching songs. He seems to vanish after Act 3, Scene 6, with Lear's line, "And my poor fool is hanged," a statement that only deepens the mystery rather than resolving it. Did the fool simply die of exposure? Or did he, in the practical world of the theatre, have to be swiftly recast? The prevailing theory is that the same boy actor who played the fool would then take on the role of Cordelia, Lear's youngest daughter. This reuse of actors would have been a practical solution for a company with limited male players for female roles. Yet this practical necessity gives birth to a haunting artistic effect. The idea that Lear's poor fool is now his beloved Cordelia, returning to him in another form. As your horse continues its steady pace towards the spires of Oxford, the rhythmic clopping of hooves blending with the quiet hum of the landscape, you are left to ponder how the practicalities of a Jacobean stage could forge such an enduring and poetic mystery. The fool's enigmatic exit, and Cordelia's re-entry remain a testament to Shakespeare's genius, transforming a theatrical convention into a powerful, heart-rending ambiguity that continues to echo through the centuries. It's a cold, starless night in 1606, and you've sought refuge in the stable of a bustling coaching inn along the road to Oxford. The air inside is surprisingly warm. A comforting blanket woven from the heat of several horses, their large bodies steaming gently in the dim lantern light. The dominant scent is a rich, earthy mixture of fresh hay, damp straw, and the wholesome aroma of horse and manure, a smell of honest labor and simple shelter. You find a relatively dry patch of straw in an empty stall, tucking your cloak tighter around you. The gentle shuffling of hooves, the soft snorts and contented munching of the horses, create a peaceful, rhythmic lullaby. A groom, his face etched with fatigue, moves quietly among the animals, offering a final measure of oats. His breath mists in the air, briefly visible before dissolving. In these common, shared spaces, many travelers, particularly those without the means for a proper room, would often spend the night, finding warmth among the animals. The quiet anonymity of such a place allows for contemplation. In this era, travel was fraught with danger, especially for women alone. Disguise was often a practical necessity, a shield against vulnerability. This very practicality of donning different clothes to navigate a perilous world brings to mind one of Shakespeare's most delightful and insightful character puzzles, Viola, who becomes Cesario in Twelfth Night. On the surface, Viola's disguise as the young man Cesario is a pragmatic choice. Shipwrecked and alone in a foreign land, it offers her protection and a means to earn a living in Duke Orsino's court. But Shakespeare pushes beyond simple disguise, inviting a deeper exploration of gender and identity. With a boy actor playing Viola playing Cesario, the play becomes a dizzying theatrical exploration of gender fluidity, blurring the lines of attraction and selfhood for both the characters and the audience. Is Cesario merely a costume, a role that Viola sheds at the end of the play? Or does the experience of living as a man for a time fundamentally shift her understanding of herself and her desires? The way Orsino is drawn to Cesario, and Olivia falls in love with Cesario, speaks to an attraction that transcends simple male-female binaries. The play asks us to consider not just who Viola is beneath the disguise, but who Cesario becomes asterisk, and what that means for both those who love him. As you drift towards sleep in the warm, hay-scented stable, listening to the soft breathing of the horses, you are left to ponder how a simple necessity like disguise could, in Shakespeare's hands, unlock such profound and timeless questions about who we are, and how our outward presentation shapes our deepest inner truths. It's a truly biting morning in 1616, late January, and you are walking across the frost-covered fields just outside Stratford-upon-Avon, not far from William Shakespeare's retirement home, New Place. The air is so crisp it almost aches in your lungs, carrying no strong scents, only the clean, sharp essence of winter. With every step, your sturdy leather boots crunch audibly on the frozen grass and delicate hoarfrost that blankets the dormant earth, creating a sparkling, glittering landscape under a low, weak sun. Your breath plumes out in white clouds before you, momentarily visible before vanishing into the still air. The fields, typically rich green in summer, are now a uniform canvas of white and muted browns, crisscrossed by the faint tracks of unseen animals. Bare oak branches, intricate against the pale sky, stand like skeletal guardians, their leaves long fallen, waiting patiently for the return of spring. The silence here is profound, broken only by the distant caw of a crow, or the gentle whisper of a cold breeze through the hedgerows. These fields, now resting under winter's spell, are the very heart of rural England, vital for sustenance. Farmers in this era understood the cycle of rest and renewal, knowing that beneath the frozen surface, life lay dormant, gathering strength for the coming warmth. This period of quiet waiting was crucial, a hidden process that would eventually yield new life. It is a time for reflection, for unseen preparations, before the world bursts forth anew. This landscape, so seemingly barren yet full of hidden promise, mirrors the enduring mysteries within Shakespeare's characters. We've journeyed through their complex inner worlds, from Hamlet's debated madness to Iago's fathomless malice, from Lady Macbeth's phantom children to the Duke's manipulative benevolence. Each character, like these frost-covered fields, presents a surface that conceals layers of hidden motivations, textual contradictions, and competing interpretations that have puzzled scholars for centuries. Shakespeare, a man of this very soil, understood that human nature is rarely simple, never fully revealed in a single glance or a clear declaration. He deliberately crafted ambiguity into his characters, leaving gaps and unspoken possibilities. This wasn't a flaw in his writing, it was a profound invitation. He knew that the greatest stories are not those with easy answers, but those that compel us to ask questions, to delve deeper, and to find a piece of ourselves reflected in the enduring enigmas he presented. As the sun begins to climb, slowly warming your face, you are left to ponder that it is this very mystery, this refusal to give us definitive answers, that makes Shakespeare's characters, much like the promise of spring beneath the winter frost, eternally alive and open to endless interpretation, forever inviting us into their profound silent depths. Welcome to Shakespeare's Satchel. If you enjoy these journeys into the Bard's world, please like and subscribe. Where are you listening from tonight? It's a ferocious January night in 1616, and you are huddled indoors, listening to the howl of a gale lash against the sturdy timber frame of a small house in rural England. The sound is immense and relentless, a deep, resonant moan of wind pushing against the wattle and daub walls, interspersed with the frantic rattle of the leaded window panes and the violent thrash of unseen trees outside. The air inside, though warmed by a central hearth, still carries a faint, earthy dampness that seeps in from the tempestuous night. You sit close to the fire, feeling its radiant heat on your face, watching the flames dance and cast flickering shadows that seem to mimic the thrashing world beyond. The smell of wood smoke, so comforting on a normal evening, now feels like a fragile shield against the wild, untamed elements. Outside, visibility is zero, the darkness absolute, punctuated only by the roaring wind and the occasional unsettling creak of the house settling against its onslaught. It's a night when the power of nature makes itself undeniably known, reminding you of humanity's small place in the grand, unpredictable scheme of things. In this era, when life was far more exposed to the raw forces of nature, storms like this evoked a profound sense of awe and vulnerability. They were a reminder of the unseen powers that could shape destiny, echoing the ancient belief in spirits and elemental forces that often featured in plays like The Tempest or Midsummer Night's Dream. Just as the wind finds every crevice and nook, so too does Shakespeare's genius delve into the hidden corners of the human soul. Throughout our journey, we have stepped into a world where characters like Hamlet, Lady Macbeth, Iago, Caliban, and others navigate their lives, often driven by motives as mysterious and uncontainable as this winter gale. We've seen how Shakespeare deliberately crafted ambiguity into their very essence, offering tantalizing clues but rarely definitive answers. Was Hamlet truly mad, or merely performing a dangerous act? What truly fueled Iago's destructive rage? Where were Lady Macbeth's children? These questions, like the unseen force of the wind, continue to resonate, challenging us to lean in closer, to interpret, and to wonder. This deliberate ambiguity is precisely what makes Shakespeare timeless. He doesn't offer neat, tidy conclusions, because human experience itself is rarely neat. Instead, he invites us into an ongoing conversation, allowing each generation, each individual, to grapple with these profound questions, to see themselves reflected in the depths of his characters. As the fire crackles and the gale eventually begins to subside, leaving a profound quiet in its wake, you are left with the comforting thought that these mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be endlessly explored, keeping Shakespeare's world, and the human heart, forever open to our understanding. It's a chilling summer morning in 1603, and you are stepping into a side street in London, unusually quiet, almost eerily so. The usual cacophony of street cries and cartwheels has been replaced by a profound, heavy silence, broken only by the distant, muffled cough of a hidden resident. A pervasive, acrid smell hangs faintly in the air, the scent of burning rosemary and juniper, herbs believed to purify the air, a desperate attempt to ward off the invisible killer. Your gaze falls upon a heavy oak door, shuttered tight, upon which is painted a vivid red cross. Above it, roughly chalked, are the stark, chilling words, "Lord have mercy upon us." This is the grim mark of the plague, a warning to all to stay away, a symbol of a family imprisoned within, battling a disease that swept through England with terrifying regularity. You feel a prickle of cold fear, a universal dread that permeates this quiet street. As you walk, your footsteps loud on the uneven cobblestones, you see other marked doors. The windows are shuttered, the shops closed. A lone watchman, the shopscoid searcher of the dead, wrapped in a heavy cloak, patrols a street further down, his presence a stark reminder of the deadly peril. Theaters are closed, public gatherings forbidden, the pulse of the city has slowed to a frightened, uncertain beat. Life is dictated by a hidden, unseen enemy that could strike anyone, anywhere. This terrifying period of uncertainty, where a sickness could spread unseen and motivations could turn desperate, brings to mind one of Shakespeare's most morally ambiguous characters, the Duke, in Measure for Measure. At the start of the play, the Duke of Vienna announces his departure, leaving his city in the hands of the stern Angelo, while secretly disguising himself as a friar to observe his subjects. On the surface, the Duke claims he wants to see the laws, which he has allowed to slacken, properly enforced, and to assess his deputy. But is he truly a benevolent ruler, testing his people for their own good, like a physician diagnosing a widespread societal ailment? Or is he a manipulative puppet master, deliberately creating a crisis to fulfill some deeper, perhaps darker psychological need of his own? His actions are those of an unseen presence, like the plague itself, shaping events from the shadows. The very act of his disguise, his hidden hand, mirrors the invisible threat that grips the city. As you hasten down the hushed street, avoiding the dreadful red crosses, you are left to ponder how profound circumstances like a plague can strip away facades, or paradoxically, encourage the deepest deceptions. The Duke, like the disease, remains an unseen, mysterious force, his true motivations as elusive and impactful as the silent, pervasive threat that hangs heavy in the London air. It's a hot, oppressive summer afternoon in 1603, and you are walking through another hushed, plague-stricken street in London. The silence is profound, but now it's broken not by cries, but by the relentless buzzing of flies around uncollected refuse. The scent of fear, however, has a distinct accompanying fragrance here. The sharp, camphorous aroma of rosemary, the bitter, medicinal smell of rue, and the sweeter notes of other potent herbs like lavender and wormwood. You notice a house where a small, smoking censer, a perfuming pan, hangs by the door, releasing tendrils of fragrant smoke into the still air. People clutch posies, small bunches of these strong-smelling herbs, to their noses and mouths as they venture out, a desperate common practice meant to ward off the pestilence. This isn't just superstition, it's based on the prevailing medical theory of miasma, the belief that bad air, or corrupt vapors, caused disease. To sweeten or purify the air was to protect oneself. You can feel the slight heat emanating from a small fire burning at a crossroads. Another attempt to cleanse the air with purifying smoke, a stark beacon against the pervasive dread. Everywhere you look, people are trying to create an invisible shield, a fragrant barrier, against an unseen enemy. Their outward actions, clutching a nosegay, lighting a censer, are overt attempts to influence an unobservable force, to control the uncontrollable. This desire to guard against what is hidden, to project an image of safety or health when deep vulnerability exists, resonates profoundly with Shakespeare's characters. We spoke yesterday of the Duke in Time to Measure for Measure *, who cloaks himself in a friar's habit, observing his city from behind a mask. His disguise is a kind of protective posy, allowing him to navigate the moral complexities of Vienna without revealing his true authoritative self. He orchestrates events, tests loyalties, and manipulates lives, all while hidden from view. His motivations are as complex and debated as the very nature of the plague itself. Is his purpose noble, a genuine desire to reform his city, or is it a more unsettling, even voyeuristic fascination with human frailty? Just as the people of London desperately try to mask the foul air and ward off disease with the scent of rosemary and rue, so too might the Duke use his disguise to ward off direct responsibility, or to conceal a more unsettling enjoyment of his power. Shakespeare leaves us to question whether his actions spring from wisdom, or from a deeply flawed, self-serving impulse. As you breathe in the mingled scents of the warding herbs, so strong and insistent, you are reminded that in Shakespeare's world, both the visible and the invisible hold potent power. The most profound mysteries often lie not in what is overtly declared, but in what is concealed, in the hidden intentions and unspoken truths that, like the plague itself, silently shape human destinies, and continue to demand our thoughtful, patient decoding. Welcome to Shakespeare's Satchel. If you enjoy these journeys into the Bard's world, please like and subscribe. Where are you listening from tonight? It's a bustling, yet still chilly, morning in 1612, and you are stepping into the cavernous kitchens of a great manor house, perhaps one in the rolling hills of Warwickshire, not far from Shakespeare's own home. The air is thick, with the rich, savoury aroma of roasting meat, already turning on a spit, over the roaring fire in the massive stone hearth. This mingles with the sharp scent of herbs like parsley and sage, freshly chopped on wooden boards, and the underlying damp, earthy smell of the cold flagstone floor. The sounds are a lively symphony of domestic industry. The cheerful crackle and hiss of the fire, the rhythmic thud of a cleaver chopping vegetables, the clang of heavy iron pots being moved, and the muffled chatter of servants. You see a scullery maid, her hands red from cold water, scrubbing a pewter plate in a deep stone sink. Her homespun linen apron, once white, is now stained with the marks of honest labor. A portly cook, his face ruddy from the heat, bellows instructions to a younger kitchen hand, who rushes to replenish the firewood. In this era, the kitchen was the heart of any great house, a place of constant activity from dawn until late evening, providing sustenance for dozens, sometimes hundreds, of residents and guests. Every meal was a colossal undertaking, a meticulous dance of preparation and coordination. The hierarchy of service was strict, with each person, from scullery maid to head cook, having a defined role in the seamless operation of the household. This grand kitchen, a place of abundant life and tireless labor, paradoxically brings to mind a profound absence in one of Shakespeare's darkest characters. Consider Lady Macbeth. Her ambition and ruthlessness are undeniably central to her portrayal. Yet, she utters a single chilling line that hints at a hidden domestic past. I have given suck and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. This declaration tells us she has been a mother, has nursed a child. But where are they? The play offers no further mention of children, no heirs for the Macbeths, only a barren future. This absence is a stark contradiction to her fierce, almost masculine ambition, inviting centuries of debate. Did her child die? Was the loss so profound it fueled her unnatural drive? Or is the babe a phantom, a rhetorical device to underscore her capacity for unmotherly cruelty? The domestic heart of this bustling kitchen, a space dedicated to nurturing, makes this lack even more poignant. As the morning progresses, and the sense of food grows stronger, you are left to ponder how a character can carry such a clear, brutal presence, yet be defined by such a powerful, unspoken absence. Lady Macbeth's missing children remain one of Shakespeare's most haunting and unresolved mysteries, a quiet domestic void that profoundly shapes her tragic trajectory, and forever invites us to look beyond the surface of ambition, into the deepest, often painful, recesses of the human heart. It's a grand evening in 1612, and you are seated at the high table in the majestic great hall of a manor house, overseeing an elaborate feast. The flickering light of hundreds of beeswax candles, arranged in intricate candelabras, casts a warm golden glow across the polished oak tables, and illuminates the rich tapestries adorning the stone walls. The air is thick with the intoxicating scent of roasted boar and spiced game, mingling with the sweet aroma of sack, a strong Spanish white wine, and the delicate perfume of pomanders, small spheres of scented materials carried by gentlefolk. The hall hums with the convivial sounds of laughter, the clinking of pewter goblets, and the murmur of polite conversation. A small ensemble of musicians, perhaps playing lutes and viols, offers a gentle melody from a gallery above. Servers, nimble and efficient, move gracefully between the tables, presenting elaborate dishes, towering pies filled with game, intricate jellies molded into fantastic shapes, and delicate confectionaries. This is not merely a meal, it is a meticulously choreographed spectacle, a powerful display of wealth, status and hospitality, reflecting the social hierarchy of the Jacobean era. From your elevated position you observe the finely dressed lords and ladies, their rich velvets and silks shimmering in the candlelight. Each person plays their part, presenting a composed and often jovial face for the public consumption of the feast. Yet even amid such a vibrant celebration, one might discern a quiet corner, a face that doesn't quite fit the festive mold. This setting, where outward appearances are paramount, brings us back to the enduring mystery of Antonio from The Merchant of Venice. His opening lines are a profound declaration of unexplained sadness. In sooth, I know not why I am so sad. He has no obvious cause for his melancholy. His ships are not yet lost, his wealth is secure, and he is a respected figure in Venice. His friends try to cheer him, offering theories, but Antonio himself cannot articulate the source of his deep sorrow. Why is he so melancholy? Is it an early modern understanding of a physiological imbalance, a humor of black bile making him prone to sadness? Or is his sorrow more profound, a subconscious dread of the financial risks he takes, or an existential unease that wealth cannot quell? Many scholars have also explored the theory that his sadness stems from a hidden, unrequited love for his dear friend Bassanio, whose lavish spending habits and need for money indirectly lead Antonio into his fateful bond with Shylock. As the feast continues, the sounds and smells enveloping you, you are left to ponder how, even in the most glittering and public of settings, the human heart can harbor such a profound, silent, and entirely private sorrow. Antonio's inexplicable melancholy remains one of Shakespeare's subtle yet deeply affecting puzzles, reminding us that beneath the surface of even the most public lives, hidden emotions and unspoken desires often hold the most potent truths. It's a cool, quiet morning in 1605, and you are stepping into a secluded chamber within one of London's esteemed Inns of Court, the legal colleges where aspiring lawyers were trained. The air is still, carrying the distinctive, dry scent of old parchment, fresh ink, and the fainter, earthy aroma of beeswax used for sealing documents. The only sound is the rhythmic, almost meditative scratching of a quill pen against a thick sheet of vellum. You find a young clerk, perhaps an ambitious law student, hunched over a heavy wooden desk, his brow furrowed in concentration. He meticulously copies a legal document, perhaps a will, a property deed, or a court summons, his hand moving with trained precision. Each letter is carefully formed, each word given its due weight. The quill, a feather from a goose or swan, dips into a small pot of iron gall ink, then glides across the smooth, prepared animal skin, leaving behind a crisp, black trail of official language. This painstaking work was the backbone of the legal system, ensuring every contract, every law, was accurately recorded. The chamber itself is sparsely furnished, with heavy oak shelving filled with weighty leather-bound legal texts. The light that filters through the tall, narrow window is muted, casting long shadows and highlighting the dust motes dancing in the air. The silence is profound, a testament to the focused intellectual labor that defined these hallowed institutions. Accuracy was paramount. A single misplaced word, a minor transcription error, could alter the meaning of an entire legal agreement, leading to disputes, ruin, or even execution. This world of precise language and binding documents offers a fascinating counterpoint to the subtle ambiguities in Shakespeare's characters. While legal texts strove for definitive clarity, Shakespeare often embraced doubt. Even with carefully chosen words, the human element of interpretation, and the hidden intentions behind those words, could create profound uncertainty. Consider again a character like Iago. His words are always carefully chosen, seemingly rational, and often convincing, but his motivations remain maddeningly unclear. His public declarations, like the precise clauses of a legal document, guide the plot, yet his private soliloquies reveal a shifting, unreliable landscape of reasons. Just as a legal loophole can emerge from seemingly clear text, so too does Shakespeare's genius lie in crafting characters whose very words, intended for a particular effect, can conceal depths of ambiguity, inviting endless debate and reflection. As the clerk dips his quill once more, the soft scratching sound filling the quiet chamber, you are left to ponder how the meticulous work of defining clear legal truths could exist alongside the profound artistic choice of leaving character truths beautifully, eternally undefined. It's late afternoon in 1605, and the light is fading within the chamber of the Inns of Court, casting the corners into deeper shadow. The air, though still holding the scent of parchment and ink, is cooler now. The rhythmic scratching of the quill has ceased, replaced by the hushed movements of the clerk as he prepares to finalize a crucial document. You watch as he holds a stick of sealing wax, a hardened resin often colored red, over the flame of a candle, allowing it to melt and drip onto the precise spot marked for the seal. The molten wax, fragrant with a subtle, sweet resinous smell, forms a small, glistening pool on the parchment. With a practiced hand, he presses a signet ring, engraved with an official emblem, firmly into the soft wax. The satisfying click as the ring settles, followed by the faint puff of hot air, signifies the solemn act of authentication. The ring is lifted, revealing a crisp, indelible impression in the now hardened wax. This seal, more than a signature, carries the full weight of the law, making the document legally binding. It represents a final, unchangeable declaration, a truth now officially recorded. This act of sealing, of making something undeniably true and binding, stands in intriguing contrast to the deliberate ambiguities Shakespeare wove into his characters. While legal contracts sought to eliminate all doubt, Shakespeare often left it as an essential ingredient. Consider the perplexing motives of Iago, the villain we've discussed, whose reasons for destroying Othello never quite form a cohesive, sealed narrative. He offers various contradictory explanations, like scattered fragments, rather than a solid, singular truth. Was it truly his perceived slight by Othello in passing him over for Cassio? Or a dark, unsettling suspicion that Othello had slept with his wife Emilia? Or was it something far more chilling? A motiveless malignity that simply delighted in chaos and destruction. Iago's character resists a singular wax-sealed interpretation. Shakespeare never provides a clear, definitive answer, leaving his motives as open and unsettling as a document left unsigned. This artistic choice forces us to confront the uncomfortable reality that some evils, some human actions, defy easy explanation. They are not neatly packaged and sealed but rather remain a swirling vortex of possibilities, a perpetual mystery. As the clerk carefully rolls and ties the sealed document, the last light of day fading outside, you are left with the profound understanding that Shakespeare's genius lies not in providing us with answers, but in crafting questions that resonate across centuries. The unsealed mysteries of his characters, their ambiguities and hidden motivations, are precisely what make them so enduringly human and so endlessly fascinating, inviting us to forever engage in the profound, personal act of decoding them. It's a cool, overcast afternoon in 1607, and you are standing inside a tailor's workshop in the fashionable district of Blackfriars, a hub for elegant crafts and close to London's indoor playhouses. The air here is clean and precise, carrying the faint, sweet smell of fine fabrics, silk, velvet and delicate lace, mingling with the dry scent of pressed wool and the metallic tang of shears. The only sounds are the soft snip of scissors, the quiet hum of an apprentice's contented whistling, and the gentle rustle of cloth. A master tailor, a man with keen eyes and nimble fingers, sits cross-legged on his workbench, a common posture for his trade. Before him, a shimmering bolt of deep crimson velvet, imported from Italy, cascades over the edge of his bench. He runs his hand over its plush surface, feeling its luxurious pile, before picking up a piece of white chalk. With expert precision, he draws intricate patterns onto the fabric, the complex shapes for a doublet, a close-fitting jacket, or perhaps the elaborate sleeves for a lady's gown. The cut of such expensive material is everything. One false line could mean ruin. Around him, the workshop is a symphony of sartorial craft. Rolls of various cloths are stacked on shelves. On the walls hang numerous paper patterns, each a blueprint for a fashionable garment, painstakingly drafted and preserved. Pins gleam in small boxes, and a thimble of polished silver rests on a nearby pincushion, waiting for the delicate work of hand-stitching. This is a trade of transformation, where raw fabric is shaped into garments that define status, gender, and personal identity. Clothes in this era were not merely covering, they were a language, a statement to the world. This mastery of outward appearance, this careful crafting of identity through clothing, brings us to the profound exploration of gender and selfhood in characters like Viola/Cesario from Twelfth Night. We discussed her practical disguise as a boy yesterday, but the tailor's shop invites us to consider the deeper implications. Viola's adoption of male attire and identity as Cesario is more than just a temporary solution. It creates a character who navigates the world with a unique perspective, experiencing both the privileges and complexities of being a man, while retaining her female heart. As the tailor carefully cuts into the velvet, shaping a new identity from luxurious cloth, you are left to ponder how profound it is that Shakespeare explores gender in such a nuanced way, long before such concepts were openly discussed. Viola's journey as Cesario isn't merely about a clever trick. It's an investigation into how deeply our outward presentation can shape our inner sense of self, and how others perceive us. Her complex, shifting identity remains one of Shakespeare's most insightful puzzles, asking us to look beyond the surface of gender, and into the intricate, multifaceted tapestry of human selfhood. It's a cool, overcast afternoon in 1607, and you are stepping into a dyer's yard near the notoriously polluted Fleet River in London. The air is pungent, thick with the sharp, almost sour smell of woad, a plant used to create vibrant blue dyes, mingled with the less pleasant ammoniac tang of stale urine, essential for activating the color. Beneath these potent aromas you can catch the faint, murky scent of the river itself, a watery artery flowing past the city's industries. The ground beneath your boots is perpetually damp, a mix of mud and spilled liquid dyes, staining the cobblestones in streaks of deep blue and dull red. Before you, a dyer, his bare arms mottled with permanent blue stains, plunges lengths of raw wool fabric into immense wooden vats, some still bubbling gently from heat. The rhythmic slosh and churn of cloth being worked in the vats is a steady, almost mesmerizing sound. Around the yard, freshly dyed textiles hang from lines, shimmering in saturated blues, yellows from weld, and reds from madder root, transforming the dull, natural wool into garments of striking color. This process, ancient and complex, permanently alters the fabric, giving it a new, often vibrant, identity. This powerful act of transformation, of permanently coloring a material, brings to mind how society often dyes its perceptions of people, particularly in Shakespeare's time. Consider Shylock from My Mex, the Merchant of Venice. To many in Elizabethan London, fed on centuries of anti-Semitic stereotypes, he was easily dyed a villain, a greedy, vengeful Jew. His very identity, in the eyes of many, was predetermined by a societal color of prejudice. Yet Shakespeare, with profound artistry, complicates this easy coloring. He presents us with Shylock's humanity, his pain at Portia's scorn and the loss of his daughter, his cries of, "Hath not a Jew eyes?" These moments reveal the complex threads beneath the surface, showing that his character is not a simple single shade of villainy. Is his pursuit of the pound of flesh an act of inherent evil, or the desperate, vengeful reaction of a man pushed to his limits by relentless abuse and societal stains? The play invites us to see beyond the surface dye of prejudice, into the intricate, painful weave of his experiences, as the dyer hoists another length of dripping blue cloth, forever transformed. You are left to contemplate how enduringly Shakespeare challenges our perceptions. Like the dyes in this yard, some impressions are hard to wash away, yet his characters urge us to look deeper, to question the surface colors, and to find the nuanced, sometimes unsettling truths that lie beneath, making their mysteries resonate across time. It's a vibrant, sunny morning in 1595, and you are stepping onto a village green, alive with the joyful preparations for May Day. The air is fresh and sweet with the scent of newly unfurling leaves and blossoming hawthorn, carried on a gentle spring breeze. Dominating the scene is the towering maypole, its slender trunk garlanded with brightly colored ribbons, crimson, gold and verdant green, that flutter and dance against the clear blue sky. Villagers, dressed in their finest homespun clothes, gather with boisterous laughter and excited chatter. Strong young men heave ropes, pulling the freshly decorated pole upright with a collective grunt, cheered on by the eager crowd. The rhythmic squeak of the ropes and the solid thud as the maypole finally slots into its base are sounds of communal effort and ancient tradition. Soon the lively sound of a pipe begins, its reedy melody joined by the deeper beat of a tabor, a small drum, as couples begin to weave and bob in traditional country dances. Children, their faces bright with excitement, chase each other through the long grass, their shrill giggles adding to the festive din. May Day was a cherished holiday in Elizabethan England, a celebration of fertility and the arrival of summer, harking back to ancient pagan rites. It was a time of merriment and revelry, of breaking free from the strictures of daily life, where the ordinary world could seem to mingle with the fantastical. This sense of playful chaos, of the world turning upside down for a day, offers a perfect lens for one of Shakespeare's most enduringly ambiguous characters, Puck from Chaucer's A Midsummer Night's Dream. On the surface, Puck is a mischievous sprite, a lovable trickster who delights in harmless pranks. He is often seen as the embodiment of playful chaos, leading mortals astray for a laugh, or mistakenly applying a love potion to the wrong eyes. His joy is in creating confusion, in observing the delightful tangles mortals weave for themselves. Yet as you watch the dancers stumble playfully, perhaps a little too roughly, you might wonder if there's a touch of something more in Puck's nature. When he says, "Lord, what fools these mortals be," is it merely an innocent observation, or a hint of genuine delight in their suffering? His pranks often cause real heartbreak, fear and pain before they are resolved. Is he truly benevolent, or is there an undercurrent of malevolence, a genuine enjoyment in the distress he causes? The text itself doesn't offer a simple answer, leaving his true moral compass as elusive as a fairy in the twilight. As the music swells and the dancers spin around the maypole, their colorful ribbons blurring into a joyful whirl, you are left to ponder how the festive chaos of May Day, with its blend of innocent revelry and potential mischief, perfectly captures the enduring mystery of Puck. His dual nature, both charming sprite and potential agent of chaos, ensures he remains one of Shakespeare's most debated figures, inviting endless interpretations of his true intentions. It's Midsummer's Eve, a magical night in 1595, and you are gathered with villagers around the comforting glow of several large bonfires on an open field. The lingering twilight paints the sky in deep purples and oranges, but the true illumination comes from the crackling flames, their heat a welcome contrast to the cool June air. The air is rich with the distinct, smoky scent of burning wood and dried herbs, mingling with the sweeter aroma of summer blossoms from the hedgerows. The sounds are a joyous blend, the deep roar of the fires, the animated chatter and laughter of the assembled families, and the occasional burst of music from a fiddler or a flagon of ale passed around. Children, their faces bright and ruddy in the firelight, leap playfully over smaller, dying embers, a ritual believed to bring good luck and ward off evil. Older folk, their expressions softened by the dancing flames, share mugs of mead, a sweet honey wine, and whisper old tales of ancient days and unseen forces. Midsummer's Eve, also known as St. John's Eve, was a night of profound significance in Elizabethan England, a time when the veil between the human world and the realm of spirits and fairies was believed to be thinnest. People gathered herbs, lit bonfires, and told stories of charms and mischievous sprites, all to celebrate the summer solstice and to protect themselves against any shadowy creatures that might venture forth. It was a night when the world seemed vibrant with possibility, yet also fraught with unseen perils, a delicious blend of wonder and apprehension. This potent atmosphere, where the natural world and the supernatural seamlessly entwined, perfectly frames our final re-examination of Puck from Those A Midsummer Night's Dream. We've considered him as a mischievous sprite, delighting in chaos. But on a night like this, when ancient beliefs held such sway, the line between innocent prankster and genuinely malevolent chaos agent becomes even more blurred. When Puck boasts, "I am that merry wanderer of the night," is he simply a fun-loving trickster, or does his delight in the lovers, confusion, and Bottom's transformation hint at a darker enjoyment of mortals' plight? The magic he wields, though often humorous in its outcome, is also powerful and disorienting. He causes genuine distress, turning affections on and off like a lantern, leading people astray in the dark woods. Would an Elizabethan audience, keenly aware of the power of spirits on Midsummer's Eve, have felt a prickle of unease at his potent pranks, seeing him as more than just a lovable rogue? As the bonfires slowly die down, leaving behind glowing embers and the lingering scent of smoke, you are left to ponder the enduring brilliance of Shakespeare's creation. Puck's true nature, balanced precariously between mirth and malice, remains as elusive as the fading magic of Midsummer's Eve itself. It is this profound ambiguity, this refusal to define him simply, that ensures Puck, like all of Shakespeare's most mysterious characters, continues to dance through our imaginations, forever inviting us to question, interpret and delight in the unanswered questions that make them eternally alive. It's a raucous, humid afternoon in 1601. And you are pushing your way through the jostling crowd at Paris Garden, one of London's notorious entertainment venues on Bankside. The air is thick with a visceral cocktail of smells: the damp earth and stale straw of the pit, the sour tang of spilled ale, the animal musk of waiting beasts, and the undeniable pervasive scent of human sweat and excitement. Above the constant babble of voices, the insistent barking of mastiffs, and the distant, throaty roar of a bear create a deafening cacophony. You feel the press of coarse woolen cloaks against your own, the uneven mud underfoot squelching with every step. Groundlings, their faces flushed with anticipation, elbow past you, eager for a better view of the spectacles to come. This is a place where raw, often brutal entertainment thrives. Bear baiting, where chained bears fought trained dogs, was a hugely popular pastime, drawing vast crowds from all social strata. It was a spectacle of power and subjugation, a display of an untamed creature forced into submission for public amusement. The crude humor and shouts of the audience, quick to cheer a victory or jeer a defeat, reflect a less refined, more visceral side of Elizabethan popular culture. This atmosphere of othering and spectacle, where wildness is tamed for entertainment, offers a compelling backdrop for one of Shakespeare's most debated characters, Caliban from Tosa Senorig Tolsai in The Tempest. On the surface, Caliban is presented by Prospero as a monstrous, deformed thing of darkness, a savage and ungrateful slave, deserving only of punishment. He is often seen as a crude, half-human creature, a symbol of primal, untamed nature. Yet, even in the midst of this chaotic human spectacle, a different perspective emerges. Despite Prospero's harsh judgment, Caliban speaks with a profound, often poetic voice, expressing a deep, spiritual connection to his island. He mourns its loss and despises Prospero as a colonizer, who stole his birthright and enslaved him. "This island's mine," he declares, "by Sycorax my mother, which thou takest from me." From this vantage point, you might see Caliban not as a monster, but as a tragic victim, an indigenous person stripped of his land and culture. The crowd at Paris Garden, eager for the spectacle of a monster, subdued, might easily have accepted Prospero's view. But Shakespeare, with his nuanced touch, invites us to question such easy labels, to consider the raw injustice beneath the surface. As the sun beats down, heating the muddy ground, and the shouts of the crowd swell, you are left to ponder how readily society labels and others, those who are different. Caliban's true nature, monster, victim or noble savage, remains profoundly ambiguous, a powerful reflection of colonization's complexities, and a testament to Shakespeare's genius in challenging us to look beyond the surface of power, and listen to the often silenced voices of the dispossessed. The raucous afternoon at Paris Garden in 1601 reaches its fever pitch. You are pressed tightly into the crowd, the air now thick with the palpable tension of the impending spectacle. The constant babble intensifies, then abruptly quiets, replaced by a deafening primal roar from the pit. The chained bear has been unleashed. An answering chorus of furious barking erupts as several powerful mastiffs, specifically bred for their strength and ferocity, are released to attack the beast. You feel the ground vibrate with the impact of the struggling animals. The crowd surges and strains, a unified mass of bodies eager for a better view. The sounds are raw and visceral, the growls and snarls of the bear, a deep guttural rumble of defiance and pain, punctuated by the high-pitched frenzied yelps of the dogs, and the occasional crack of a whip from a bearwood, a trainer who manages the spectacle. The smell of mud, sweat and animal musk grows more intense, a primal scent that fills your nostrils. This brutal sport, a cornerstone of popular entertainment in Elizabethan London, was a spectacle of dominance, a crude morality play, where a wild creature was subdued for public amusement. The bear was often seen as an embodiment of untamed, even monstrous nature, needing to be controlled and punished. The audience's cheers and jeers reflected their expectations. A wild beast should be brought to heel. This very act of othering and subjugation resonates profoundly with the enigmatic figure of Caliban in The Tempest. Prospero, the colonizer of the island, labels Caliban a thing of darkness, a monstrous and savage slave, deserving only of his control and the harsh punishments inflicted by his magic. In the eyes of many Elizabethan audiences, familiar with such public displays of dominance, Caliban might easily have been accepted as merely a deformed monster, much like the chained bear in the pit. Yet, Shakespeare, with his remarkable insight, offers a counter-narrative, a glimpse of the bear's perspective. Caliban, despite his outward appearance and coarse curses, speaks with haunting poetry, lamenting the theft of his island and the injustice of his servitude. He is not just a monster, but a victim, an indigenous figure dispossessed by a powerful outsider. Is his so-called savagery an inherent trait, or a desperate, defiant reaction to his enslavement and exploitation? As the roaring and barking continue, filling the arena with a raw, unsettling energy, you are left to ponder how readily society creates and labels its monsters for its own consumption. Caliban's enduring mystery, monster, victim, or a complex blend of both, challenges us, much like this brutal spectacle, to look beyond the surface of power, to question the labels imposed, and to listen for the silenced voices that speak from the heart of injustice. It's a chilly, late evening in 1599, and you are helping a lodging housekeeper secure the shutters on a multi-storied, timber-framed building in Southwark. The air is still and cold, carrying the damp scent of the nearby Thames mingled with the faint, lingering smell of coal smoke from a brazier, and the distant echo of a watchman's cry. The last of the day's revelers from the playhouses and bear-baiting rings have dispersed, leaving the narrow, unlit street in a profound quiet. You work with a sturdy wooden pole, pushing each heavy shutter closed, and fastening the wrought iron bar across it with a satisfying click. The wood is rough and weathered beneath your hands, testament to countless nights of protection. The windows, once open to the bustling street, are now tightly sealed against the cold and the darkness, and any dangers that might lurk within it. This act of securing the house, closing off the outside world, is a familiar ritual in Elizabethan London, a necessity for safety and warmth. The darkness outside is absolute, a profound inkiness broken only by the dim, infrequent glow of a lantern passing in the distance. These lodging houses, often crowded with transient guests, were places where identities could be fluid, where secrets could be kept, and where people from all walks of life briefly converged. The closing of the shutters, physically obscuring what lies within, mirrors the way individuals often guard their inner lives, presenting a carefully constructed facade to the world. This sense of hidden realities, of what is glimpsed versus what is truly known, resonates deeply with many of Shakespeare's most enigmatic characters. Consider the unsettling case of Hamlet's madness. On the surface, Hamlet appears truly distraught, speaking in riddles, behaving erratically, alienating those around him. But is this genuine insanity, or a brilliant, dangerous performance? An antic disposition, as he calls it, designed to deceive his uncle Claudius, and unearth the truth about his father's murder. The text itself offers evidence for both interpretations. His lucid soliloquies suggest a cunning mind at work, while his interactions with Ophelia and his mother hint at a genuine psychological unraveling. The closed shutters of this lodging house remind us of the impossibility of truly knowing another's mind, especially when they might be deliberately concealing their true state. Was Hamlet's performance a strategic act of self-preservation, or did the weight of his grief and mission push him to the brink of actual madness? As the last shutter clicks into place, plunging the street into complete darkness, you are left to ponder the enduring power of such mysteries. Hamlet's madness, like the unseen world beyond these secured windows, remains one of Shakespeare's most compelling puzzles, forcing us to constantly question what is real and what is artifice, and ensuring his character, and our fascination with him, will forever endure. It's a very late evening in 1599, and you are settled by the dying embers of a fire in a quiet lodging room, perhaps in London or Stratford. The day's bustling sounds have long faded, replaced by the gentle crackle of the embers and the soft, almost hypnotic hiss of a tallow candle burning steadily on a nearby table. Its single flame casts a pool of warm, shifting light, illuminating the worn pages of a printed play, perhaps one of Master Shakespeare's own. The air, cool but not cold, carries the faint, comforting scent of beeswax and old paper. This is how many stories were shared in the age before electric lights. By the intimate glow of a candle, words read aloud, filling the quiet space. As you listen to the words, or perhaps hold them yourself, you feel the texture of the rough paper, aware that each line, each scene, was crafted by a master who understood the deep, often unspoken complexities of the human spirit. Shakespeare, you realize, did not always provide easy answers. Instead, he often deliberately wove threads of ambiguity into his characters, creating puzzles that have tantalized scholars and audiences for centuries. We've journeyed through many such case files together, peeling back layers of motive and interpretation. From Hamlet's debated madness, a brilliant performance or true despair, to the unsettling void of Lady Macbeth's missing children. We've wrestled with Iago's fathomless malice, seen Caliban transform from monster to victim depending on one's view, and questioned the Duke's true intent in Measure for Measure. We debated Ophelia's tragic end, Prospero's enigmatic magic, Antonio's melancholic heart, the fool's sudden disappearance, Viola's gender-bending journey, and Puck's mischievous, possibly malevolent, nature. Each case presented textual contradictions and competing theories, shaped by Elizabethan audience expectations, censorship, and even the unreliable text problem of early printings. These mysteries are not a weakness in Shakespeare's genius, but its very strength. By refusing to give us definitive answers, he invites us into an endless dialogue, challenging us to bring our own experiences, our own moral compasses to bear on these enduring human dilemmas. Different eras, different actors and different readers have found new meanings in these ambiguities, ensuring that these characters remain profoundly alive, eternally relevant, and forever open to our exploration. As the candlelight flickers, casting long shadows that dance like unspoken thoughts, you understand that Shakespeare's true magic lies in the questions he leaves behind, inviting us to contemplate the boundless depths of the human heart, long after the last page is turned. It's a somber grey spring day in 1603, and you are standing on the banks of the Thames, watching a magnificent funeral barge glide slowly downstream. The air is cool and still, carrying the faint briny scent of the river, mingling with the heavy sweet smell of mourning garlands and the lingering perfume of expensive spices used in embalming. The usual bustling sounds of the river are hushed, replaced by the rhythmic dip of oars and the solemn tolling of distant church bells. The barge itself is a somber spectacle, draped in black velvet and adorned with plumes. On board, a richly decorated coffin, covered with the royal standard, carries the remains of Queen Elizabeth I, the monarch who reigned over England for 44 glorious years. Her death marks the end of an era, a transition from the Elizabethan age to the Jacobean, as James VI of Scotland ascends to the English throne. Thousands of Londoners line the riverbanks, their faces solemn, their quiet murmurs a collective expression of grief and uncertainty for the future. You feel the cold dampness of the stone wall beneath your hand, and the collective weight of history in this moment of profound change. This solemn procession, moving inexorably towards its final resting place, speaks of the ultimate mystery of death, and the often unseen forces that shape life and reign. The end of a monarch, particularly one as long-reigning and powerful as Elizabeth, leaves a profound void, and the transition of power, however smoothly managed, always carries an undercurrent of unknown possibilities. This sense of finality, and the questions it leaves in its wake, resonates with the mysteries we've explored. While death itself is absolute, the circumstances surrounding it, and the motivations leading to it, are often far from clear. We've wrestled with the ambiguity of Ophelia's death. Was it accident, or suicide? Minos, a question that profoundly impacts her spiritual fate within the religious context of the era. But even beyond these specific moments, this grand, moving funeral procession symbolizes the very essence of Shakespeare's brilliance in crafting characters with deliberate ambiguity. Just as the Queen's era is passing, leaving behind an inheritance of both certainty and uncertainty, so too do Shakespeare's characters leave us with puzzles that transcend their immediate stories. Their hidden motivations, controversial interpretations, and the mysteries that have puzzled scholars for centuries are precisely what make them timeless. As the funeral barge slowly recedes into the distance, disappearing around a bend in the river, you are left with a quiet reflection. Shakespeare understood that life, like death, is full of unanswered questions. By embedding these profound ambiguities into his characters, he ensures that their stories, like the ebb and flow of the Thames, continue to move and change, inviting endless interpretation, keeping their human truths and our fascination with them eternally alive. It's a deeply quiet night in 1603, and you are standing on the ancient stone of London Bridge, observing the sleeping city under a vast star-strewn sky. The air is cold and crisp, carrying the damp, earthy scent of the River Thames below, which flows with a gentle, unseen current beneath the 20 arches of the bridge. The rows of houses and shops built upon the bridge itself are shuttered and dark, their usual daytime clamor replaced by a profound silence. Before you, a lone watchman, his heavy wool cloak pulled tight against the chill, slowly paces his beat. His lantern, a small, enclosed flame, casts a narrow circle of light that dances on the worn cobblestones, but barely penetrates the encompassing darkness. You hear the rhythmic tap of his staff against the stone, a solitary sound in the vast stillness, and occasionally, his distant, muffled cry of, "All's well." A reassurance that feels both comforting and fragile against the vastness of the night. Above, the canopy of a million stars glitters with astonishing clarity, far brighter than you would ever see in the light-polluted modern world. The immensity of the cosmos, cold and silent, stretches out, a universe of unseen forces and unfathomable distances. Below, the sleeping city, with its myriad houses and hidden lives, seems equally vast, holding untold dreams, fears, and secrets behind every darkened window. Each silent dwelling holds its own unknown stories, its own private mysteries. This profound stillness, this sense of countless unseen lives unfolding beneath the indifferent stars, brings us to the very heart of why Shakespeare's characters endure. Throughout our journey together, we've delved into their enigmatic depths, from Hamlet's calculated madness to Iago's chilling lack of a clear motive, from Lady Macbeth's phantom children to Prospero's ambiguous magic. We've wrestled with their textual contradictions, explored competing theories, and seen how interpretations shift with each passing era and every new performance. Shakespeare, a man who walked these very streets and gazed upon these same stars, understood that human nature is rarely simple or neatly explained. He deliberately crafted ambiguity into his characters, leaving gaps and unspoken possibilities. These aren't oversights, they are profound invitations. He knew that the greatest stories are not those with easy answers, but those that compel us to ask questions, to delve deeper into the human condition, and to find a piece of ourselves reflected in the enduring enigmas he so brilliantly presented. As the lone watchman continues his rounds, a small, steady light in the vast darkness, you are left with a quiet reflection. It is precisely this mystery, this refusal to give us definitive conclusions, that makes Shakespeare's characters, like the stars above a sleeping city, timeless and eternally open to endless interpretation, ensuring their profound human truths will forever illuminate our own.